Good morning, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of our special series in partnership with the Empower First Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God has designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life purpose, because we believe that when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, her community, and the generations to come. So, friends, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with today's incredible guests. And our guest today is Shivani. Shivani, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, Shivani, I got to know you a little bit through your bio, but why don't you take just a few minutes and introduce yourself to our listeners?
All right. Hey, everybody. So, my name is Shivani Sharma. I am a strategy coach and I teach women how to start up their businesses and build an audience from scratch and how to get that audience to become clients. And I actually started this business because I'm visually impaired. I was in corporate before this. I won a bunch of awards as a copywriter, worked in some of the biggest brands in the world, like Coca-Cola and Dove, and so many different brands like Nestle and things like that. But I wasn't feeling fulfilled particularly, and I also didn't feel like the corporate world was set up for a blind person.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm not completely blind. I can see from one eye, but it's just 10% of vision, right? And I just felt like corporate just didn't seem like my place. It didn't feel like I belonged there. There was so much politics going on in the background, and I was not even, I couldn't even see most of the time what was happening. So I was just always caught unawares all the time. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Even though I'm doing what I love, which is copywriting, it doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I'm serving the world in a good way in this manner. So I decided to start my own advertising agency. And that was when everything flipped because up until that point, I thought I was amazing at marketing. And, I'd gotten so many accolades, I'd worked on so many big brands, but I realized that when it came to starting your own business, I didn't know anything. I didn't have big corporate budgets to start. I didn't know what to do with myself and how to get clients in the door. So I just kept grasping at straws over and over and over again and telling myself, no, this is the way, this is the way. And then eventually I sort of burnt out and I
Mhm.
realized that I don't know what else to do. I have no other way of making this successful. And as a blind person, here I was trying to show people that there's a better way, and I just couldn't figure out what that way was.
Wow.
And so I decided that enough was enough. I had to take things in my own hands. I had to work on the things I didn't know. I had to find ways in myself to grow in the things that I didn't like doing. There were so many sides of my business that I didn't get into the business to do, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want to go out and do lead generation. I didn't want to learn about sales. I did not want to go out and tell people, hey, come join my whatever I'm doing. But I eventually realized that I have to grow up. If I'm going to be a business owner and I really want to see my vision through, then I have to grow up. And so
Mhm.
I did. I went out and I learned everything I could learn about all the things I hated. And truly, that was where my growth was. And once I finally figured out what that looked like, I realized in that moment that as the blind person who was looking for her purpose, I had found it. I had
Mhm.
found in my own hesitations, in my own scarcity mindset, I figured out that once I was able to move past all of these limitations, that's where my success ended up being. And
Mhm.
so I've basically dedicated my life to getting other people on the same journey and finding out that they can actually make a business out of their passion. It just takes a lot more than they thought they ever knew they could do.
Wow. Well, let's peel it back just a little bit, Shivani, and just talk about some of the steps that because we did hear your challenge. I mean, corporate is a beast. I used to work in the corporate world. Um, so much of that people wanting to climb the next rung on the ladder and yeah, you talk about politics, it's definitely there. Challenge after challenge after challenge. Not only that, but having a disability in itself too probably comes with its own challenges as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, a lot of them. And it's funny because I didn't even know how big of a challenge my disability would end up being for me until I stepped in the corporate world for the first time and realized, oh, okay, it's no longer up to me and my success. It's a lot more on other people and their perceptions of me.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you went there because it is when we work for companies and we work for other people, we are working under their vision, their goals, their desired outcomes. And so it kind of limits us in our ability to be creative, think outside of the box because we kind of have to just conform to what that looks like. So it's important to find things if that's someone out there listening right now. It's important to find things that align with your own personal visions and passions as well when you're working for others. But because you have this challenge that you're facing, and it's really kind of at this moment of a life pivot for you because you're having to determine, am I going to continue to do this and fight through the challenge, or am I going to create something else for myself? So that's what I want to know. What was that growth process? Because you mentioned you took some steps, but I want to kind of know about those steps. What were they?
The steps that I took to sort of grow out of
Yes.
okay, so the first thing was that I realized um my own mindset was holding me back, right? Like I said, mentioned before, I had been in corporate and I've worked with all these beautiful big budgets and beautiful ads, and I thought that was where I needed to go. And I started believing in a sort of an ego place that, all of these big things is where I need to spend my attention. And not so
Mm-hmm.
much on lead generation and knocking on doors and, doing the grind work because grind work isn't glorious at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we start off when we leave corporate, we start out with really glorious dreams of like, oh, we're gonna follow our passion and we're gonna do what we love doing, and we're not gonna be in corporate anymore, so we can do whatever we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that that is just the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is so much to business that you don't love and you have to do. And the first thing is getting over that hurdle of let me go out and do those things. Let me go and find the things that I'm scared of doing. So for me, the first thing that I was really scared of doing was lead generation because I had already figured out sales by the time I went into business,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know how to get leads in the door. So I would shy away from that basically because I just didn't like rejection. And what it really sang to me was it's going to be rejection all the way, right? And because I was afraid of it, I would avoid it. And then finally, what happened was one of my clients was like, I need you to do lead generation for me. And my first instinct was, what? You want me to do lead generation? I am the CEO of my company. And my second thought was, how much are you gonna pay me, bro? Because I'm getting going broke now. Right?
Yeah.
And at that point, he was like, I'll give you whatever you need, just figure it out for me. And that was the day I had to do lead generation. And I realized that, oh my God, it is such a gift. It is the gift that most people don't realize they have for free.
Wow. Wow. And it's when we step outside of our comfort zones that we find the most opportunity, is what I'm hearing in your story. And you're not the only one that has come onto the podcast and said, yeah, I was scared. I was scared of rejection. Um, and that tends to, when we look at fear, we look at fear as a barrier. And I mean, it very much can be when, because you mentioned having to get outside of your limiting belief systems and your thoughts. But that barrier is really kind of the make it or break it point. If you look at it, depending on the lens you're viewing it from, how are we looking at that fear barrier? Is it, ooh, it's scary, so I'm going to stay on this other side, or ooh, it's scary, but I'm going to try it anyways. It's more of a guiding post because really what fear is telling us is it's just a place you've never been or anybody else that has ever been. And so you're stepping into something that you're going to have to figure out on your own. And we're so scared to fail. We're so scared of rejection that we tend to just be like, no, you know what? I'm going to stay where it's safe. I'm going to stay in the comfort zones that I know. And sometimes that's not the best place because you don't grow from that.
Absolutely. There. Yeah, that's honestly the definition of life, right? Whenever you're comfortable, you're not growing. And as soon as you start figuring out that that comfort zone has ended and now you can't stay here anymore, that's when your true accomplishments begin, right?
Hmm.
And I remember like I wanted to be in corporate so badly. I was so excited when I got there and I was so disillusioned by the time I left, and it was only a couple of years in the middle, right? And I had thought to myself that, man, I what am I going to do? How am I going to ever be able to make this business work? Who's ever going to listen to me, right?
Hmm.
And that fear of not being good enough kept me from making that decision for a while. Even though I knew it was not in the right place, I didn't feel like corporate was my place. I just
Hmm.
couldn't get myself to jump. And the moment I decided to jump, everything changed, right?
Hmm.
Everything became better, seemed easier. Then it became harder again because the next thing became my next fear, right?
Hmm.
So ultimately, you start realizing that your growth is basically you battling one different fear after another. And you just keep slaying those dragons, and then eventually you land up in places where it's not so hard to slay the dragons anymore.
Yeah, and you become a pro at it, and you kind of look at it with excitement. Okay, here we go. We're stepping into something new. We're gonna
Yeah.
learn. We're gonna grow from it. It's gonna be great. Um, Man, and that's such a beautiful way of describing it too, because they are dragons to us. And so get out there and slay one. Um, so okay, so when did it start to shape who you are today? When did this situation start to shape who you are today?
I feel like there was a time when all I really wanted was to make $10,000 a month. Okay.
Mm,
And that was the only goal that I could think of that I could hang my hat on and say, if I reach this goal, I'm safe. I've moved past all of my insecurities and into a stable place, right? And over again, I would just miss that mark. I would just keep missing it. I would get almost there, and then the business would go down, and then it would go up again, and then it would go down again. And I just couldn't figure out what was the thing that would take me past this level.
mhm,
And then I discovered communities. So I started building my own online community. And this was a completely fluke thing. I'd seen somebody, I had just joined a community one day, and I was like, what? There are Facebook communities? And everything sort of just like blew up in my face. And I was like, what? My mind is like, I can't even process how cool this is.
mhm,
And then I was like, I'm going to try and build one. And without assuming anything, I just started building one. And the thing that I was thinking in my mind was that, you know, that bookstore in a small community that has book sales every day. People come in, they're authors that are always showing up, and there's this level of like this is the center of the whole village because it's such an amazing store and people love coming here because there are people always recommending amazing things, or it could
mhm,
be a coffee shop or whatever it is that that thing that you feel like the center of the community. I kept that in my mind when I built that community. And
mm,
as it kept growing, I started realizing I was changing, right?
mm,
I was getting
mhm,
clients, I was becoming more confident, but I was also turning into a softer, kinder human being
mm,
because every day new people would come in, new people would talk to me, and they would tell me their problems, and I would get to help them without anything in mind, without wanting anything in return.
mhm,
And suddenly I became the leader of that community. I became the authority in that community. People started seeing me, this blind person, as a movement maker in that community. And my business changed from that day on. My stability changed from that day on. Everything that I wanted to bring into my life happened through that community, right?
and that's beautiful because a lot of growth and when we're in the process of it, like when we're in the midst of it and creating, whatever it is that we're creating, whatever goal we have, whatever dream and desire we have, um, it's community that tends to pull us through, and it's community that tends to propel us forward. So I love that you're mentioning community, but also too, you mentioned being more soft and kinder. So I was talking with another guest on the podcast too, and I said, when you're confident and you're sure of what you want, um, and you're stepping into your store, you're stepping out of the comfort zones into, the life that you're creating for yourself, the person you want to become or you're becoming. Um, there's this, you're still kind of refining who you are in that identity, right? You're still trying to build it, you're still trying to create it. So there's still a little bit of that roughness, from the old identity and where you're coming from. And so when you start creating this new identity, and mine is love based, like I am like, I want to exude love, I want to be compassionate. And so as I continue to grow, whether it's, leadership or coaching, doing presentations, whatever, I always want to come across as loving and compassionate. And and that way I connect more with people. I'm touching hearts and I'm touching their spirit in a sense because I want to be so genuine and authentic that it's not like I'm this big expert, I know everything. I'm gonna, wow you with all my knowledge. Man, that's not impressive. It's the genuineness of who you are in your, core.
Yeah. And I found like women specifically care about this, right? We
Mm,
want authenticity. We want to feel that level that when we say something, our like we can feel the hormonal shift because really cared about what we were saying, right?
yeah.
And then when someone else receives it, you can see that they're like whatever, they start getting goosebumps when you're talking. That is the kind of impact we want to make in our lives. That's the ultimate thing we want to be able to do with each other, right? And like when you're in corporate environments or when you're environments in which you're competitive with each other, you don't get that feeling often
Hmm.
because you're always trying to look out for your own
Yeah.
survival, right?
Yeah.
In these types of communities where everybody's going through the same pain points, everybody's struggling, everybody's feeling like they need to grow together, and a lot of times entrepreneurs are alone, right? Like
Hmm.
they have a dream, they really want to put their money and their effort and everything into it, and their families don't get it, people around them don't get it. They're just like, "Oh, you're just going from one thing to another thing. Who's going to guarantee you're even going to be successful?" Right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
everybody's trying to pull you back from your purpose. Even if they say that they're looking out for you, a lot of people are waiting for you to fail just so that they can be like, I told you, don't go out and do this thing that's not normal, right? Stay in the
Yeah.
lane of normalcy. And
Yeah.
that feeling only goes away when you see other people struggling like you and growing like you.
And here's the thing. So, you're talking about some good stuff here. So when you're building your community, you do want to be amongst like-minded individuals because that's how you're going to continue to move forward. That's how you're going to be more solution focused in the challenges and obstacles that you face as you're trying to strive to those goals. It's the people, and sadly it's like your common friends and family, right? Those
Yeah,
that were there before your growth phase, but really what they're doing is speaking from their own limiting beliefs, and they're
exactly. You
speaking
don't
onto
realize
you.
that a lot of times in the beginning. Most people don't even know what limiting beliefs are until they get into the coaching world and,
Yeah.
they start hearing these terms.
Hmm.
Before that, they're watching other people have objections and they're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then they stop,
Hmm.
right? Because we are not recognizing our own limiting beliefs and other people's. It's too much to process right in the beginning of the creation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And but here's the other thing too. If you ever want to look back at where you started, look at those friends that you started that were there because that's like-minded, right? Birds of a feather.
Mm.
Um, that's and then you can look back and go, wow, I'm no longer there. I know every time I step out of like a relationship of any sort, whether it's a career relationship, a friendship, romantic, whatever. When I step out of it and I look back, it's almost like I'm not going to take a step back. I don't go back into that relationship because
Mhm.
I'm no longer in that mind space
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that I cut people off or,
yeah.
I stop being friendly or friend, it's still a friendship, but I don't ever step back into it. Especially in a career. I
Hmm.
don't ever step back into it because I'm no longer there. And the reason I stepped out is because I knew I was hitting like the limit of where I could grow within that setting. So I needed to step out so I could continue to grow. Um, And it's so freeing too, because when you release yourself from some of those limiting beliefs and things, uh, you feel like almost the stress falls off immediately. Like it's really amazing.
This
The
is what
op
they were saying when they say we could fly, right?
Yeah.
Like as soon as you let go of a limiting belief, you suddenly understand what flying must feel like.
hmm Yeah, and you do because you start soaring because the opportunities start just almost like falling in your lap, and you're like, praise God, it's miracles that are happening, doors are opening, but it's
Yeah.
because you shift yourself into a place where you can start receiving that because where you were before, you weren't able to receive that, and now you're in a place where, yes, God can bless you because you're now in that place, the mindset to be open to those next opportunities. I love that. Um, Shivani, if someone were listening right now and they are where you once were, in a position of in between, so to speak, where they're like, man, I don't know what to do. It's either this or that fork in the road. What kind of
Mhm.
advice would you give that person?
Okay, so I feel like for one, if you're in the two different places, which is should I stay in corporate or should I leave and start my own thing?
hmm
That's where I'm going to start because that's the first fork in the road. And that fork in the road, at this point, all the signs are pointing to start your own thing. Okay. The reason is that this world and the corporate system is going to collapse, not just because of like internal factors, but there's a lot of job loss. You're seeing people are restructuring their businesses. Businesses are going to become very inexpensive to the business owners. Okay. But they're going to become very expensive to keep employees around. So the corporate lifestyle you're used to is going to go away in the next 10, 15 years anyway, right? And the people who are not understanding this are just blindly continuing as if nothing else is going on, but this is real. It's a real thing, right? So I would suggest that if you haven't jumped off this train yet, consider doing it now. This is the least scariest it's ever going to be because everybody is falling off. Okay? So think about it from the perspective of future proofing yourself. Get yourself a skill that nobody else has or is so valuable that everybody else wants, right? Get a skill that's so difficult for people to achieve that they fall off the wagon in the middle, and you be the person that isn't going to fall off the wagon and you will succeed anyway, right? So that's your assurance. Just make yourself more resilient than other people and you will succeed. If you are not resilient, you will fail just like everybody else.
Mm. That's some good advice there. I hope somebody's listening out there. Um, and then, so Shivani, what does living with purpose look like for you now?
So right now I teach 8,000-ish people, and they are currently working with me and learning how to turn their passion into their purpose and turn that purpose into an impactful place, right? And just like my community has changed my life, I'm helping other people create those same sort of communities. And what ends up happening in those communities is that people end up creating not just content for consumption, right?
Mhm.
But content for impact. And then when you create content for impact and it's strategic and you're doing it in a way where you know what you're doing as opposed to trying to get spaghetti to stick on the wall, it's a structured place for people to come and feel safe inside of,
Mhm.
right? You
Mhm.
have done your work to make something structured, and so other people can reap the benefit of that service. And when they see your hard work come to benefit them, they will benefit you back. They will want to work with you. They will want you to have a bigger impact in the world, right? Because that's what communities do. They uplift each other. Only if you are actually the kind of person who builds communities that uplift each other. If
Uh-huh.
you're just trying to take advantage of your community, that probably will not last very long, right?
No. Yep.
So
That's true.
that's just it. You jump off the corporate bandwagon, go follow your purpose, and then use your purpose to build a community that creates an impact. That's the game.
Mhm. And we all want to be impacted. We all want to be inspired. We want to be motivated. So definitely find your niche out there so that you can do that. Um, so Shivani, I do have a question of legacy and impact as we start coming to the closure of our conversation. My question to you is, if today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
I would want to be remembered for someone who didn't let their limitations dictate their impact in the world.
Mm. Mm. And that's powerful, very powerful. And so if you could maybe leave a word of encouragement with someone listening today who's still trying to figure out their purpose, what would it be?
Be smart. Be smart about your purpose
Mm.
and
Okay.
be kind about it too, right? Your purpose should create something useful in the world. And if it's not doing that, it won't be your real purpose either.
Absolutely. And you're speaking the kindness in the sense of the energy behind your purpose, the energy behind what you're trying to create. Because it's all a boomerang. Life is
Absolutely.
all a boomerang, and what you put out, you receive, you get back in. It's also biblical, you get back tenfold. So, anyways, my last question to you as we start closing our conversation is, Shivani, if someone wanted to work with you, how can they contact you?
Okay, so if you want to contact me, come DM me on my Facebook. That's where I'm usually hanging out. It's Shivani Sharma Del Porto. I hope I'm the only one that's got that name. And if you want to join my Facebook community, it's called Referral Circle for Women Entrepreneurs and Coaches. And it's this amazing place where we hand out referrals. You can promote yourself. You can be a part of the community and teach people. You can do challenges inside of it. And I will teach you how to get clients from communities once you're inside of my community and you're able to sort of bring some sort of value. So you come in with value and you will take away a lot of value. You'll leave with clients, essentially. So come be of service and people will be of service to you, I promise.
Wonderful. Well, Shivani, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. It's conversations like this that remind us that purpose isn't about perfection. It's about showing up and growing through the things we go through, and that every step matters. Here at the Good Morning Minute and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So, friend, wherever you are today, remember your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. Until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, and keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.